Welcome back to the podcast. I'm excited that I'm able to share with you a recent webinar I participated in. It was sponsored by AffiniPay, which is the parent company of MyCase, DocketWise, CasePeer, and LawPay. And my segment, it was a 3-hour afternoon. My segment was about a 20-minute segment, and it was called Running a Financially Sound Law Firm. So the discussion was led by Nikki Black, who is the principal legal insight strategist for AffiniPay. And also, it was a panel style. So with me was Jared Correa, who is the founder of Red Cave Law Firm Consulting. And we discussed the essential financial strategies for law firms. We explored key financial metrics, expense management techniques, best practices for bookkeeping, and how to prepare for economic downturns. This conversation offers valuable insights that you don't want to miss. So let's join the discussion. Welcome to your Profitable Law Firm podcast. I'm Kelly Brubaker, your dedicated host, passionate about empowering law firm owners. Let's dive into the hidden strategies that lead to overflowing profits, scaled growth, and thriving lives. And this is where overwhelm transforms into confidence, enabling you to create and enjoy your dream firm and your dream life.
This is fire session number 3. My name is Nikki Black. If you're just joining us, I'm the Principal Legal Insight Strategist here at AffiniPay, and I'm going to be the moderator of this session. We're going to be talking about running a financially sound law firm. My panelists that are here with me today are Kelly Brubaker, who is a CPA and founder of Profit Scale Thrive, and Jared Correa, who is a lawyer and founder of Red Cave Law Firm Consulting. We are going to be exploring the building blocks of law firm profitability. And before we get started, I just want to let you both know you've got 2 minutes apiece for each question. And if you go over, I'm going to cut you right off. So keep that in mind. All right. So question number 1, what we're going to talk about are the key financial metrics that law firm owners need to track. The industry survey data showed that 53% of respondents said that making informed financial decisions was a challenge. So starting with you, Kelly, talk to me about some of the key financial metrics lawyers need to track in their firms.
Absolutely. So being a CPA, my favorite metrics change a lot, but right now I'm really loving this concept of lockup. And lockup, I think why I like it most is because it's a combination of several things and it's an easy relatable number. So here's what lockup is. First, you're going to figure out how much in days does it take you to bill your WIP, and then add to it the number of days that it takes you to collect on your invoices. So total lockup is trying to unlock your cash that's tied up in WIP and unpaid in your accounts receivable. So I'm really loving lockup. And then 2 other metrics that I really like are related. I like to look at them in a related fashion. So first, this should be an easy metric. Average revenue per client. So just however much money you're going to get from a new client that comes in. But I like to look at that in comparison to client acquisition cost. So how much over a 12-month period do you spend on marketing? And then for that same 12-month period, how many new clients came in? That's going to tell you how much you're spending to get a new client. Now, look at the relationship. How much money did you spend to get a new client? And then versus how much revenue are you going to get? And I like to be able to see that your client acquisition cost is 20% or less than how much money you're going to get in revenue from that client. So those are my favorite metrics right now.
Okay. Those are some fantastic metrics. Having gone to law school to avoid all math, I sort of phase out during that.
Lockup's great because it's in days. I think
that's
days
fantastic.
relates to everybody.
100%.
Yeah.
So, Jared, are you going to add some metrics that we can think about here?
Those are some good ones. I'll try not to make your eyes bleed as we talk about numbers. So there's a few I talk to about law firms with on a regular basis, and I love numbers, by the way, so I could do metrics all day. One that I like that I think relates back to efficiency is utilization rate, which is a big one for law firms. The problem is they don't want to track it, though. And Kelly, I know we didn't talk about this. You didn't talk about this directly, but I think one of the things for lawyers, we talked about this a little bit before we came in here, was you got to socialize this stuff with them and get them used to it. because you don't want to drop this in the laps right away. So if you're listening and you're like, this sounds like it might be difficult to employ in my firm, you don't have to do it right away. You just need to start thinking about it. So the way that utilization works is it's basically a metric that defines how much somebody is working in any given day. And this is really easy for billers, right? So if you've got a lawyer and that lawyer is billing 4 hours a day and an 8-hour day, their utilization rate is 50%. Now, that's helpful to know in the abstract, but it's also helpful to know what they're doing when they're not billing. So the idea is you want to take a look and say, okay, those other 4 hours, what are you doing? Is it administrative work? Is it marketing work? Could we get you to be more efficient so we can get that billable number up? And everybody can have different criteria here. You can do utilization rate across the whole firm. You can do it for particular attorneys. So I like that one. And this is a simple math equation. I know you said you don't like math. And neither do I.
Hello, Donkey.
Difficult math. We're not doing like imaginary numbers or anything. But in terms of efficiency, you want people to have higher utilization rates because you're getting more work done and you're billing more hours. That's simple math. Another one I like is realization rate, which is basically like, what do you write off in a firm? And I think this is really interesting because for new attorneys, especially, like I have a lot of law firms that are onboarding attorneys. And so one of the things they want to figure out is, okay, like they're billing this amount of work. I know that their utilization rate is X, but what I don't know is how much stuff am I writing off for them? Like, what am I actually getting to a bill for the client? And that's a number that you can measure as well. So those are a couple that I really like for attorneys.
Yeah. KPIs and tracking all these metrics is super important because otherwise you really just have no sense of what your profitability is and you
Right.
can't really figure out how to increase it if you don't know if you're profiting.
Yeah, what a great scene.
Right, for sure. So, thanks for all that insight. Now let's get some insight on a different topic. We learned from the industry report that 55% of the respondents said that tracking expenses is a challenge. And, this is something that law firms deal with on a regular basis. They've got lots of expenses, different credit cards, different ways of paying for it. And it can be really challenging to figure out where all the money's going. So, I was hoping that you guys could, starting with you, Jared, let us know how can firms effectively manage expenses without cutting corners on essential operations or client service? And do you have a couple tips or some advice you can give them?
More than a couple, but I'll keep it
Yeah.
to two
All right.
for you. First of all, I think it's good to know what your expenses are. It's really surprising to me. I talk to attorneys. I'm like, what do you pay for stuff? And like, what kind of money do you make? And they're like, your idea is as good as mine. I just don't know. So looking at the budget is helpful. Looking at profit and loss statements. I'm trying to get people to look at profit and loss statements lately. That's my new thing. I'm like, you go into QuickBooks. It's the first report. It's real easy to find out. Two things I would say on managing expenses. The first is that there are two really big costs for any law firm. The first is people and then is space. So if you wanted to manage your expenses more effectively and reduce your costs, the first thing you want to be looking at is, do you have office space that is unnecessary? Do you have people that could work remotely? Do you have people that are not utilizing the space you have? Another metric we didn't talk about that I also like is revenue per square foot. Like, what are you making based on the physical space you're utilizing? People aren't necessarily looking at that. So there's so many different ways to work with people these days. Nobody necessarily wants to be sitting in an office all day unless they ask them to be an office that has a ton of snacks, like some offices I've been to. You want to be able to reduce your office space if you can. That's one big cost you can run down. The second is people, right? And so as I'm talking to law firms now, especially like new lawyers who are launching law firms for the first time, they're like, I want to be as efficient as possible. I want to use as much technology as I can. I want to start using AI. And what I want to do there is replace the rote work that employees have previously done for me. If you can use technology to do those things, and that's only going to get more expansive. I know you had an AI panel where you talked about this. That's going to be a thing moving forward. I tell people, get efficient as you possibly can using the right technology, using AI tools so that you don't have to hire until you absolutely need to. And then you're in a really good space from an expense management proposition. So in sum, if you can reduce the cost of staff, if you can reduce the cost of space, that's where you're going to be saving the most money in your law firm.
Well, and I love that how a lot of your response there overlapped with the previous two panels, right? AI and remote work. And there's pushback on wanting everyone in the office so you can see that they're actually working. And I think that can be an unwise financial decision in a lot of ways. What do you think about, Kelly, about some ways you can effectively manage expenses in a firm?
Yeah, so I do love that you're talking about let's cut expenses, but without sacrificing client service, right? So, an exercise that I like to do with clients is to go through what I call an expense audit. And over a 12-month period, and I make sure that we do this over a 12-month period because a lot of things will come in annually. So, want to make sure that we capture those expenses. But essentially, go to your bookkeeper and say, hey, I want a report of all my expenses, detailed, and group it by your vendor. Who are you paying? And then sit, and I know this sounds agonizing, but go through and the first pass, you're going to go through this 3 times. So first, you're going to go through and you're going to cross off any vendors that you're like, I cannot live without. I need this service or whatever you're paying for. I need it. I'm not changing. Fine. Cross it off. So then now you have a shorter list. And it gets easier now every time you do this. So the second pass, you're going to go through and you're going to say, what do I want to eliminate? And good things here are I'm paying for Acuity and Calendly, and they do the same thing. Why? Why am I paying for the same thing 2 different times? Pick one. I don't care which one. Just pick one and go with it. Okay. So you're going to go through it and figure out what are you going to eliminate. And this would also fall into a category of, oh, I pay for Adobe, but yeah, I haven't used it in 3 years.
Right.
You know, so something like that. So definitely the thing. So the second pass is what can we get rid of? We're just going to eliminate. So highlight those, and you're going to work on, whenever you can contractually get out of that renewal. And then the last piece that you're left with is the things that you're like, well, I know I started working with this vendor. I'm not really sure why. I can't remember. And so now you have to do a little bit of research on this. But if you do it in this order, that's a smaller bucket. And then go through and figure out, a lot of times if it's a subscription based model, they probably have tiered pricing. So the research you're doing is, one, do I have a different solution that accomplishes the same thing so I can eliminate, or can I downgrade my package? And am I using the premium features? And when I do this the first time with clients, on average, we end up saving about 10% of annual budget. So that's a big, 10,000 on
Yeah.
100,000. It's a big deal. So, and then do this every, 3 to 6 months, and to keep up with it so you don't let it get too stale. But that's how I like to manage expenses.
Yeah, that sounds like a great strategy. And I think if you put both of those together, you end up with some really great ways that you can approach that issue for sure. All right. So now we're going to talk about best practices for bookkeeping and accounting. This is right up your alley. In the industry report, we found that 61% of the respondents said that accounting was a challenge. And that's why I think I would love to get your insights on the best practices firms should follow for bookkeeping and accounting so that they can stay compliant and financially healthy. And that compliance piece is a big piece, especially with lawyers and trying to avoid any kind of disciplinary action. So let's start with you on this one, Kelly. Can you provide me with some best practices?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a CPA, so you already know right away I'm going to say hire a bookkeeper. It's a no-brainer. We're not even going to discuss it. Just do it, okay? It's well worth spending that. I know it appears to be a cost, but it's truly an investment. But now here's the thing. Once you have a bookkeeper, and whether that's an internal employee that you have on staff or it's an outsourced position, you need to trust but verify. Make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and really focus in on your trust accounting, because bookkeepers may be working with different companies through different industries. Trust accounting it's not unique to the legal world, but it's very specialized. And there's only a handful of industries that have trust accounting. So a lot of bookkeepers are not experienced with trust. So 2 things that I like to recommend. First, make sure that the trust gets reconciled every month, and don't just ask and say, hey, is it reconciled? Actually get the reconciliation, look at it, and there'll be a section that will list out any items that are in your books but not cleared the bank yet. Whatever that section, whatever's listed, if there's anything dated more than 45 days from today, question the bookkeeper. Why did that happen? And I don't mean to imply that the bookkeeper did something wrong, but typically a lot of these are check got lost in the mail. So follow up on those. And especially you want those to clear through your trust account. Be done with them. So follow up on anything more than 45 days. Make sure your bookkeeper is keeping on top of that. And then the second thing is to do a mock audit of your trust account. So don't tell your bookkeeper and just,
Yeah.
hey,
Good idea.
spring it on them, because you will know that if you do get that letter from the bar
Mhm.
that says, congratulations, you're the lucky winner,
Huh.
you'll be prepared.
Right.
You'll make sure if you do a mock audit on your bookkeeper for your trust, you'll know that they're going to have all the documentation that they need and all of your accounts are reconciled and everything's going to be great and you're going to fly through a real audit. So those are the things that I like to see happen.
That's some great advice because audits can be so stressful. And if you do a pretend audit, like a mock audit, at least you sort of have gotten your toes wet, and you have a sense
Absolutely.
of what that's going to be like.
Yeah.
So Jared, what about you? What do you think are some best practices the firm should follow?
Oh man, IOLTA? Yeah, I would second that. I used to do audits for the Board of Bar Overseers in my state, and I would say that probably like 80+% of attorneys weren't doing the trust accounting correctly. And it ain't that hard to do, everybody. It's really not. And two-way is not good enough. It's got to be three-way because this is a strict compliance rule. All right, enough about that. Two other things I like. One is automated billing for law firms. I feel like you got to do it. Like every time you put that choice in the hands of a client to pay you, guess what? You're going to be waiting. Because as a lawyer, your bill is on the bottom of the proverbial bill shelf. You're below the mortgage, you're below anything that anybody's going to pay. So if you can take payments from clients directly without having to have them take an action, that's the best strategy. Now, you can do that with a lot of the modern tools. You can set up subscriptions. You can click a button to make those payments come out. You can do that as part of an entire workflow. Now, if you're going to do that, I think you need to paper that transaction correctly, which is where some people fall down. So you want to have a credit card authorization form that a client's filling out. You want to have a clause in your fee agreement that represents actually how you're taking money from your clients. And if you do that correctly, then that system kind of runs itself. And that's really what you want. Because, one of the issues with running a law firm is it takes a while to get paid if you leave it up to the client. So don't leave it up to the clients. Last one for me is I'm a big reports guy. I like data. I like reports. I want to know what the reports say. But reports aren't as bad as they used to be. Like you don't have to print out an Excel spreadsheet anymore and
Right.
comb through it. Like reports can now be dashboards on the software that you use. So if you got reports that you want to see on a recurring basis, like trust accounting reports, like accounts receivable reports, like any kind of report that you can create within the system that's already built as a default, or custom reports that you can design on your own, there are easy ways to make that very transparent to you and everybody else in your firm. So I would jump on reporting as dashboards yesterday.
Awesome. You guys have tons of great advice. I appreciate all your financial savvy here and your number savvy. So last but not least, we're going to talk about what can you do to prepare for an economic downturn. We in the industry report, we learned that 32% of the respondents said that they sometimes it's challenging to make payroll, and that can be particularly impactful when there's an economic downturn. So, Kelly, Jared, starting with you, let's talk about some of the steps firms can take to prepare for economic downturns and maintain a financially resilient firm, even in uncertain times. And we're definitely entering those with a lot of the markets all over the place.
You
right
might bring
now.
this up. Stock market's doing great.
Right?
My first response would be voodoo, become a voodoo practitioner. No, a couple things I would say here. First is if you've had a firm that has been established for a while, take a look at historical trends in your firm. You may have passed through a recession before. You may have passed through an economic downturn. And if you're using reports, like I just said, you definitely should, then you can look back and say, okay, when we had a downturn previously, this is how our numbers were affected. This is how each practice area was affected. This is what we did to handle it, and we had success. Another thing I would do is, I think this is good practice for law firms generally, but a lot of lawyers are like running their firms on the skin of their teeth. Like they just got some money and it's enough to cover a couple months. It's okay to have retained earnings in your law firm. Like hold back some funds so that you can use them when you need them. It's not the worst thing in the world to have a rainy day fund. And then the last thing I would say, bonus tip, y'all, is lean operations are good at any time. And what you don't want to be doing is getting lean when an economic crisis hits. You want to be lean already and know how to operate that way and feel confident about doing so. Jared's Guide to an Economic Recession.
Perfect. Maybe we'll have you write that.
You had it.
Okay. And then last but certainly not least, Kelly, I'm sure you've got some steps up your sleeve that firms can take.
I do. So a couple weeks ago, this was something I didn't know. Even though I'm a CPA, I don't memorize the tax code. But a couple weeks ago, I had on my podcast, I had a guest that was talking to me about a section of the IRS code, and it's called 831B, B as in boy. And effectively, this is what happens. You know how you have your 401k plan, if you work for somebody else or you haven't set it up yet for your firm, but essentially a 401k plan, money comes out of your paycheck every
Mhm.
week or every pay. It gets set aside and it's tax deferred. So you're
Right.
saving. So there's tax savings to it, but that's a benefit to it. The primary goal is to save for your retirement. Oh, bless
Oh
you.
my gosh, excuse me.
Bless you. I know. We're so excited. So an 831B plan is setting up a self-insured or self-funded insurance plan for your company. Now, the benefit to this, there's a tax advantage to it to set this up, but you're also you're setting up insurance that's very specific to your firm. So you have to have an administrator, just like if you set up a 401k plan, you have to set up with an administrator. So with an 831B plan, you would have an administrator and they would interview you about the things that are what's keeping you up at night, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those are the things that they're going to sit and say, okay, we're going to create this insurance company, and the insurance company is only going to fund your firm, and that's it. But it's going to insure very specific risks in your firm, and then you're going to fund it. So you're going to quantify somebody will help you come up and say, okay, you need to put in, $10,000 a year, whatever the
Mhm.
number is, and you make regular contributions into that plan, tax savings on this money, and then the money's sitting there. So what were we doing 5 years ago? Probably this week, I think, actually. And everybody freaked out. Well, people who had certain plans in place, whether it was a rainy day fund or an official, some type of a plan,
Right.
were better prepared. I don't think anybody was prepared, but just
I don't think
better
we prepared
prepared.
for that, right?
No,
What's that? You can't prepare for the
'Cause-
famous English, right? Like can't prepare for the COVID
Right.
pandemic either.
I'm still in disbelief that we were locked down at home, but
Right.
5 years ago. But yeah, so just it's the concept though of setting aside money. I
Mhm.
mean, you just can't snap your fingers and have $1 million sitting aside. But take the steps now, plan now for something that could happen in the future, and then you'll be better prepared when it does.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. Tons of great advice in this session. With that, this session's gonna come to a close. I hope you have some great financial management takeaways that'll help you run your firm more efficiently in the future.
Running a successful law firm takes more than legal expertise. It requires financial mastery, strategic planning, and data-driven decision-making. At my accounting firm, Profit Scale Thrive, we specialize in helping law firms achieve lasting profitability by providing tailored financial guidance, optimizing cash flow, and equipping you with the insights needed to scale with confidence. Ready to take your firm's finances to the next level? Join our private community for law firm owners called Your Profitable Law Firm Community. Each month, we dive deep into essential topics about the business side of running a law firm. This is your opportunity to connect with other firm owners, share challenges, and discover proven solutions in a supportive environment. Visit ProfitScaleThrive.com today to join our community and access resources specifically designed for law firm owners just like you. Have a question about today's episode? Drop a comment below. Know of another firm owner struggling with their finances? Share this episode. It might be exactly what they need. Click that subscribe button to get notified when we release new episodes with more practical financial insights for your firm. If you found value in today's discussion, please take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback helps other law firm owners find this content. And remember, profit is something you intentionally plan for in the beginning. It's not a potential bonus at the end of the year. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you inside the Your Profitable Law Firm community.
This is going to